The problem began when most of the people made search engines their god. This was an easy and natural step for the majority of mankind who simply need something or someone outside of themselves to do the work for them, save them, or create a path to enlightenment ahead of them, because they sure as hell aren't about to do it themselves, but won't hesitate to take a crack at feigning it. This is, after all, the point and purpose of organized religion. Come on in, relax, we have it all figured out for you already, and here's some marketing material that just so happens to be old that will explain everything for you. You see, no personal responsibility or accountability is required here. We subcontracted all that to a messiah, prophet, or deity of some sort, so all you need to do is simply take our organized, incorporated word that what we tell you is everything you need to know. Of course, like the changing of fashion styles or any other idiotic trend, organized religion has become so last epoch. Now the trend that's in is a spiritual materialism whose faith and practice has the final authority of the internets. Swell. Once upon a time, and probably still for those in the know, truths of a spiritual matter were transmitted by the method of mouth to ear, from master to apprentice, in an unbroken chain, since the first lightbringers had to come down to this ghetto sphere in the tree of life to get the primates up and on their feet all balanced and proper. Then marketing was invented and religions started springing up from the uninitiated who heard a thing or two from here or there, then went off convinced they knew what the fuck they were talking about. And as you would expect, they didn't. This is why, when attempting to have any in-depth conversation with a subscriber to older religions, it is soon revealed that their limp understanding of what they purport to believe isn't even remotely close to what their source material says anyway. But I suppose you can't really blame them, because most religion source material is edited to an agenda about as much as a Wikipedia entry, subject to change like the terms of service for a Pathway to Heaven company that operates much like an insurance firm for the mentally handicapped due to atrophy. Now, what serves as the final authority in faith and practice is Google and its subsidiaries and every nitwit spiritual guru / content creator and the followers they've racked up with flashy designs or paid subscribers that parrot whatever the almighty algorithm has decided to program the collective unconscious with this week. It kind of smacks of Skynet taking over the planet after it came online, only in this reality it didn't need to launch nukes to subjugate humanity. It just needed to get a whole lot of people on YouTube that to believe that saying stupid phrases like spiritual, not religious, love and light, or anything with the word dimension in it means you are the shiny new Buddha everyone needs to sit before and listen to all of a sudden. You know the kind of people I mean, right? In reality, their personal life is a complete mess. They're doomed to swing from broken relationships to shattered affairs and circumstances that are clearly destructive, counterproductive, and filled with the most unspiritual intents with herpes to testify to that attestation, or 5 aborted babies to boot. You know, con artists whose biggest mark just so happens to be themselves. Somewhere deep down, they probably think that if they can fool enough people into imbibing their metaphysical bullshit, then perhaps, poof, it will magically happen for them, around them, and within them, without ever having to truly do the work. Oh, they'll say they are doing the work while not actually doing the work. And how that comes out of their mouth is with the word healing. Allow me to cruise on this topic for a moment, because it truly is one of the more annoying spiritual trends that clearly indicates an exquisite idiocy in the person spewing it. And that's the trend of perpetual healing. Hey, look, I get it. The world is a trauma farm. You got trauma, I got trauma, we all got trauma. So healing. Sure. I mean, no one is looking down their nose at taking appropriate time and measures to heal from all our unique and personalized internal bullshit. It's probably a good idea to routinely check in with a therapist or have a nice support network as a fixed thing in your journey here on Earth. Keep working on the muscles of your mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical, and like any exercise, which does require a rest period to repair or heal, just like a slash from a butcher knife to the flesh, when you see the red flow, slow your roll, slow your heartbeat, and let your blood coagulate to do its thing. Heal. If you do it right, you will be healing. Then guess what? Healed. That's right, boys and girls, and when you are healed of a thing, the thing is no longer an issue in your experience of life. Because if it is, you're not healing anything. You're picking at scabs, because bleeding gets you some attention and dopamine hits when need be. Put it to you this way. If a trauma to the flesh is healed and has proven so by becoming a scar to remind you of survival, isn't to perpetually see blood flowing a pretty good clue you are nowhere near healing? Yeah, didn't think so. Anywho, moving on. I think the vacuum this thought experiment came from is due to knowing that not that many years ago, few there be that were discussing, openly anyway, much of the components to the spiritual stew one can sup from when walking one's individual path. Gurus, guides, or sages were very far and very few between, any worth their salt, that is. Which meant so too was the true guiding light of spiritual truths that have endured throughout the transaction of mouth to ear for millennia. This required a studious, disciplined, and determined will from an initiate to advance in any school of the arts or crafts, as they required an ever-present unction to own knowledge for themselves rather than to have it packaged, sold, and fed to them. How master or apprentice often discovered one another was from a twinkle in the eyes and little to no need to announce that each were a fellow traveler on the Yggdrasil trunk. No business cards exchanged, no QR codes to scan, no channels to subscribe and hit the bell notification on. And then suddenly, almost overnight, and as fast as the porn industry found its footing in the World Wide Web, everybody is into crystals, meditation, witchcraft, yoga, and chakras and shit. And perhaps that wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for the fact that the same repeating masses that were shopping trends in religion before this explosion of occultism online occurred simply piled on to the Black Friday of the soul and joined one bandwagon or another that sprung up somewhere online. And with their same primitive thinking, deluded themselves into believing yet again that if a whole lot of people are saying a thing, that thing must be so. Therefore, they can repeat the thing that was said and try to play it off like they have first-hand experience or knowledge of it themselves. Puny. Once there was a master chef who had, at the beginning of his long quest, been a kitchen porter that wanted to hand down a bit of culinary wisdom to a young lad with a babysitting smart pad dangling from his digits. The master chef had been taught by a master chef and a long line of master chefs going back to the first thing ever placed on a spit. The truths of the trade were determined by trial, error, and correction, and results, then transmuted to the next in line of the cosmic kitchen from mouth to ear, on occasion inscribed text, with an ingredient or two missing for security purposes. The master chef asked the young boy if he knew the difference between soup and stew, to which the boy shook his head with a slobbery-nosed no. The master chef then proceeded to explain what the distinctions were, and smiled with satisfaction that some pearl of wisdom in the culinary arts might have been passed on to another generation. However, before he could marinate in his satisfaction, the lad's spiritually trended sperm donor swiveled around in his chair and Googled the difference between a soup and a stew, to triumphantly read aloud a completely different answer from the flickering blue screen of the internets than what the master chef had declared. What was more audacious to the master chef than the spiritually trended sperm donor, thinking it was incumbent upon him to fact-check one who had achieved this rank in his craft, was that the dumb son of a bitch did it with a Google search in acquiescence to the notion that search engine algorithms were his final authority on pretty much everything. This same type of blind spot has been adopted by many who fall in the spiritual, not religious camp that comes out with new teachings like Wizards of the Coast putting out Dungeons and Dragons books every other week. What can one expect from the overall collective message of the spiritual Skynet that can now dictate what you do daily with some handy-dandy pocket app or the other that listens to every word you utter and monitors each movement of your eye upon its receiving black mirror is inevitably artificial. The almighty algorithm that now has humanity by the short hairs is free to edit, delete, or rearrange any spiritual meaning to icons, images, alignments, practices, or text with any agenda it likes. And whatever search engine results happen to show up on the first page is now the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth for those who are addicted to what is spiritually trending. It's a very efficient hall of mirrors with dopamine smoke to keep the profane masses scrambling for what new path to ascension or heaven or healing modality is on the feed this week. No doubt through all that superficial spiritual clicking, there is bound to be a shopping cart icon at the end of their journey to attain some trinket or another as proof that they have indeed finally reached the summit of the mountain, with a retail price of about $199.99. Perhaps if there is indeed some truth to spiritual notions of a judgment to come or a weighing of the heart, at least those who stayed with the spiritual trends will have a t-shirt or something to get burned with or get eaten by a giant crocodile in. They wouldn't bow to altars of their fathers because that was old hat, but give them a digital god in their pocket and they'll lap up each of its doctrines and covenants all the way to Hades. Zen in the car, for the spiritually minded liberty activist on the go. Liketh, shareth, subscribeth. It's what the cool kids do.